Again, welcome Facebook, welcome Instagram, Periscope, YouTube, Twitter. Welcome everyone. Today what I want to talk about is a topic that no one really wants to talk about, which is how do you sell? How do you effectively sell when you're going after a company or you're going after it and you want to actually move forward with your family, you want to move forward with your financial situation. How do you do it? First of all, I want to explain something to you. The highest paid profession, if you look across the board, the highest paid profession is sales if done effectively. You look at the best people out there, it all comes down to sales. You can argue with me and tell me that, well, hey, this guy who's a CFO makes $38 million a year. He's not necessarily in sales. I promise you he's in the position he's in because he's good at sales. Because he's good at selling himself. No matter what your situation is, no matter what your occupation is, no matter what you're doing, even if you're conversing with your kids and trying to get them to convince to do something, you are always selling. So the first thing I want to explain to you is, for some reason, sales is this taboo word. Nobody wants to talk about sales because that word, people go back to in their mindset to the guy, trying to sell things door to door, and sales gets this negative connotation to it. Selling is an art form. It's not, you talk about the science of selling versus the art form of selling. Today what I want to talk to you guys about is the art form of selling. Before we do that, a couple quick things is I want you guys to do me three favors. Number one is share this broadcast. So share this broadcast with your social media. Number two is I want to make sure that you know when I'm going live. And we also, for those that are plugged into me, know that I do special things, special giveaways, special content that I send out only to those that are plugged in directly to me. And so if you want to get notified when I go live, I want you to send a text message, two different text messages. The first one is send a text to the number 313131 and simply text my name, Kori. So sending a text 313131 and text Kori allows us to let you know whenever I go live. So if you can't watch it live, you can watch it archived, but you'll know exactly when I go live. And also the different things that I give away, different things that I do, all of that I do typically the first people to be able to benefit from it. The first people to benefit from the $42,000 giveaway that I'm doing right now were those that were plugged in to me on that platform. So again, 313131, send a text to the name Kori. Second, so hit send once you do that. The second thing is we go live tomorrow. On our other group, which is the Body Unlimited Energy. So, I talk a lot about business, talk a lot about sales, but the reality is that all of that is conducive to or is required for you to have the energy level that you're going to need in order to push yourself forward. And even if you make a lot of money, if your life looks great, you can get derailed immediately when your health goes to shit. And it's amazing to watch people. In fact, I've got a family friend who used to smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day and all of a sudden has had some health challenges, some heart challenges, and quit smoking cold turkey now for the past 5 months. You can do that when it's a life or death situation, right? But what I want to talk to you guys about, and what we talk a lot about, is the different pillars of success. So the money, right? The money is one pillar of that success, in my opinion. You have to be successful in all these areas in order to, in my opinion, be what I call massively successful. Just because you have one area mastered, in my opinion, doesn't make you massively successful. So those pillars are the mindset, which we talk a lot about, the body, having the energy that you need to succeed and also being around long term to enjoy the money and the things you've created, the lifestyle, and also I like to throw into there the family. So all of those areas, and if you obviously another area could be faith, but all of those areas have to be successful in order for you, in my opinion, to be called massively successful. And so one of the focuses that we have every single week as well is the body. We have a big group of people that right now are doing a fast. When you join this group, you also get a document that I put together that talks about the top 12 things that you can do to easily impact your body and have the energy that you need, look great, feel great. And so you can join that group by simply going to my Facebook page, Kori Lee Official, clicking on groups, and then the Body Unlimited Energy to ask if you can be part of that group. You have to fill the questions out so we know you're serious to do that. The easiest way to join that group is that same text message you sent to 313131. This time send and put the words the body and hit send. So send a text message 313131. In the text put the body and then you will get a reply back. It'll give you a direct link to get into that group. It also lets us tell you when we go live. Tomorrow specifically, Bree is going to be going on with me, or I'm going on into her feed, and we're going to be talking specifically about how to get off your ass and get to the gym, how to have the energy and the time to get to the gym or to actually move more, which obviously is conducive for energy. So those two text messages. 313131 is the number, and send KORI in one text, and then the body in a separate text. THEBODY. Doesn't matter if there's a space or not. The body in a separate text. You'll know you're in because you'll get a reply back saying you're in. All right. So today's topic is going to be the art form of selling. I'm going to go through and talk about the top 5 focuses that I want to give you, or tips as far as to become good in sales. And this is not something that's typically taught this way. If you look at, most people talk about the science of selling. There's all kinds of amazing books out there that talk about the science of selling. I keep things very, very simple. I'm a simple person. I look for ways to shortcut everything that I do. And these are the top 5 things that you can do to be really good in sales. So number 1 is, and this you're going to say, well, how does this have anything to do with sales? This one is so important, which is why I have it listed as number 1. And that is, you've got to get your frickin' financial literacy correct. You've got to get your understanding of money correct. And the reality is, if you're not making the money, if you don't have money, then you're looking at this and saying, hey, I want to become good at what I do, but you don't have money, that means you're not doing something right. You've got to get your financial literacy correct. You have to understand money and what it takes. And you can have all these excuses out there. People make excuses of, and they'll look at somebody who has money and they'll make excuses to say why they're not there, because you always have 2 choices. One is to take yourself and raise to the occasion and say, listen, this guy must be better than I am, this gal must be better than I am, I have to become better if I want to do better. Most people don't do that. They find reasons why somebody's succeeding and why they're not, because that allows them to validate their current position in life. What I want you to do is look at those that are massively successful, and in your mind, look at what they do or how they do it. And in almost every case, and again, I'm not talking about the doctor or the surgeon who does well financially perhaps, but they're missing one important element. They're missing the element of leverageability and scalability, and in many cases, investment. So you've got to get your money right. You have to understand money and how money operates, and don't just look at those people who are massively successful and making excuses why you're not in that capacity. Anyone that's a self-made has gone through the paces to do that, and look at modeling them or what you can do to step up and look at them and say, listen, I can do that. If they can do that, I can do that. And that's what I've been able to do over my career, is to look at anyone else that's successful in a massive way and saying, what are they doing differently than I'm doing? How can I scale? How can I massively expand my business or what I'm doing in selling in order to succeed? Now, again, I'm saying this to all of you guys. You guys look at sales being me having a product or service and selling it to you, and that is true, but you're looking at it as a tangible typically, right? I'm telling you, everything you do is in sales. I went to school with some massively intelligent people, got way better grades than I did, studied, went to college. I didn't go to college, but what I knew is that if I understood that the sales concept, and I could present myself, I could sell myself to someone, that I could do better. And in some cases, even though somebody's very, very intelligent, how many intelligent people do you know that don't make a lot of money? And that's because they haven't learned this art form of selling themselves. So you've got to get this down and understand the literacy of money. You've got to understand money. And I've got several topics that I've talked about and how to make money and the percentage and the ratios of investing in other videos that I've done. So you can go back and watch those if you want. But you've got to get your money correct first. Number 2 is understand that product knowledge is not what's important. People think if I'm selling a car and I know all these things about this car, or if I'm selling this service, or I'm selling this house, or I'm selling, whatever it is, that's the most important thing. Now let me ask you this question. Why do you see companies where you have the 2 individuals, right, that have the exact same product to sell, pretty much the same knowledge to the knowledge of those products, that all is equal. So what is the biggest differentiator? What is the biggest differentiator? The biggest differentiator of someone who's successful and someone that isn't is all about mindset. It's all about mindset. It's about the attitude when you go in. It's about creating this relationship with somebody you're talking to. If you guys have been around me very long, you know that when I'm sitting down with someone, having a bite to eat and talking about business or putting a contract together with them to do business, and I'm talking about deals from a few $100,000 to the largest deal that I put together was $1.2 billion. And it doesn't matter the size of the deal. It matters your relationship with that person. People always ask me what the best skill sets they have to succeed. I would say relatability. Being able to communicate and relate with people at every single level. Whether it be somebody who's a maintenance guy, or whether somebody who's a multi-millionaire or even a billionaire, you have to be able to communicate with that person. Relatability. Knowing a little bit, right? Knowing a little bit about every single facet. When I look at the news, for example, you guys know I spend 10 minutes seeing what's happening in the news. So I know just enough to communicate with people. I don't follow sports. I don't spend the time doing it. I just chose not to. But I know enough to talk at a high level about sports and what's currently going on, the situation that's out there. So I can communicate. You have to have this relatability. Now, part of this, I'm going to give you guys a phrase, and this is something I was driving I was actually in a limousine when I was in my early 20s with a gentleman who had become massively successful in the industry that I was in. He had made, $35 million. And I was making at that time about $1 million a year. And I'm, I think it was 19 or 20 years old. And I'm in this limousine getting ready to go speak. Now, I was able to speak. This event was, tens of thousands of people at this event. And I had literally a 50-minute part. So I wasn't a big speaker by any means, but it's a 50-minute part. So I'm in this limousine with him and a few other people. And I turned to him. This guy was in his 50s. And I said, if you had to give me your words of wisdom, if you had to boil everything down to, I was someone who I learned early on. I have two ways of learning things. One is by trial and error. You do something, you get a result. You don't like that result, you change your actions a bit. You do something else, get another result. You don't like that result, you change your actions. You keep doing that over and over again, you start learning, right? But the problem is that's time consuming, and also it takes a lot of money typically. The best way for me to learn has been, and I've been modeling people that already have what I want. So if I look at somebody who already has what I want, or they're already doing something, I'm like a sponge. I want to find as much as I can. I talk least about myself and start asking them questions to try dissecting how they think, how they walk, how they breathe, exactly how they dress, exactly what they say to people to get the results that they're getting. In every industry, it's that way. I don't care what industry you're in. So if you have a new sales role, or you start selling real estate, you start doing different things, don't try figuring it out. Find somebody within that focus, within that industry, and shut up. I don't care about your past, right? In my business, right? In my business, I have people that I've trained and developed that make millions of dollars a year. So if you bring you into my business, you learn what I know, you pick my brain, and you figure things out based upon that. Now, if I go into your world, let's say you're in real estate and very successful, you're in the top 1% of real estate agents out there, I wouldn't have a clue other than the basics, but I'm going to find out and assimilate with you how you walk, how you speak, how you communicate, how you follow up when somebody closes, what you do for them to get repeat business. I would model you first. And when I'm getting the same results or similar results that you're getting, then I can use my own skill sets and beta test it, if you will, to figure out how to scale it. So I went to this gentleman in the limousine. I said, if you had to boil everything down, all of your knowledge into something concise, something simple, something like a minute or two, what would you tell me it takes to succeed? And here's what he told me. He said, Kori, it's very, very simple. Now, I understand he's from the South, so you can understand the accent. I do a terrible accent. But he said, if you set yourself on fire, people will come from miles around just to watch you burn. Now, what he meant was fire. So if you set yourself on fire, people will come from miles around just to watch you burn. Think about this. When you're driving in a car and there's an accident, right? So you're driving in a car, you're on the interstate, all of a sudden the traffic's super duper slow, and you're driving, so what the hell's going on? And you get to the accident, and it's actually off the road. There's no reason that the car should be going 10 or 5 miles an hour, but it's all the rubbernecks, right? All the people that are watching it. They just are attracted like a moth to a flame, watching this accident or watching what's going on, trying to figure out what's going on, so they're driving super slow. In life, it's that way. You will gravitate towards people that have energy, people that are making things happen. And so when I communicate with you, for example, if I'm sitting as a whole other side topic of how you mirror and match and how you communicate with people, if I'm sitting down with you and you're talking like this, and this is how you're communicating with me, I'm going to match that. I'm going to talk to you at the same level. And as I start going in that conversation, I'm going to go a little bit louder, a little bit faster. By the time we're done with that conversation, you're starting out like this with sitting back. I'm sitting back like this eventually as well. By the time I'm done talking to you, you're sitting up and you're going as fast as I am with the same level of passion because you're modeling me. It's something subconscious that you do. So before I make a phone call, a client call, before I get in front of someone, I get my energy level at peak state because I want to make sure that when I sit down with them, I have certainty in my conversation. When I talk to somebody they know, I'm not, I don't care what it is. If I'm selling you a car, selling a piece of real estate, if I'm talking to you about and wanting to get a job, I have the same intensity with any conversation that I have because I put myself in peak state. You can't see it. I've got my trampoline right over there. Before I make a phone call, because phone calls are terrible. Phone calls are challenging because you only have one sense, auditory, right? That's all you're bringing to that person you're talking to the other side of the line is auditory, your communication with them. And you've got to match them and then build it up. And so I've got to get my energy level up and be at peak state. So understand it's not about, number two, it's not about product knowledge. It's not about what you know. It's about your communication ability and your level of passion. You set yourself on fire. People come from miles around to watch you burn. I've had people that have done business with me, and later on, like a year down the road, they said, honestly, I don't understand what you even were talking about, but you had so much passion. I wanted to figure out what you were doing or what you were on, or I wanted to figure out what I needed to do to plug into that energy level. Sales, I will tell you, it's about energy. I don't want to be a slick salesperson. You got to mirror match. You can't come on with full throttle. But when you could communicate deliberately. You communicate and find out about them. You've heard the saying, you've got two ears and one mouth. Your job in communicating is ask them as many questions as possible, answer them quickly, but then circle it back to questions with them. Because people love talking about themselves. And when I go down and I have a conversation with someone, most of the sales conversations I have, most of my negotiations, it's probably 3/4 of that time is the relationship side, talking about their kids, talking about sports, talking about whatever they want to talk about, and probably a fourth or even a fifth of that is what we're actually trying to sell. So that is the art form. That's not the science, that's the art form of selling, is learn how to communicate properly. Learn how to talk to people. Learn how to have certainty and passion behind what you're talking about. By the way, I'm looking at some of your comments. Make sure you're commenting, giving him information in the messages, because the team is watching that to field those, and I read all of your comments, all of your questions, and that also helps me address what I want to talk about in the next live. So let me know what you guys want to see, want to hear, questions you might have. So number one is, again, get your money right. Understand money. Number two is product knowledge is not number one. Attitude and communication is number one. So that's number two. Number three is follow-up. Follow-up. So there's a statistic out there that says 25% of people never get past that first phone call. That's crazy to me. So first, if you know that it takes an average of 5 to 7 exposures to get someone to buy, in most cases, 5 to 7 is the average. Not if you're full engagement communicating. That may mean, if you look at, for example, 14 to 15 exposures with social media, website stuff is 14 to 15 exposure to get someone to make a decision. But if you're directly connecting and communicating, it's 5 to 7. And 25% of people never make it past that first phone call. Never make it past the first phone call. Okay, so and what's crazy is 72% of those that make it past the first phone call never make it past the second phone call. Never make it past. So 25% never make it past the first. Those that actually make it past and do a second phone call, 72 point whatever percent never make it past to the third phone call. Now you're missing out on almost all of your sales. You're missing out on all of your deals because you're not following up. So you've got to follow up. You've got to follow up. Following up is I think it's crazy to me, but following up is the most important piece with whether you're going to sell something or not. It's the most important piece. If you're not following up, you're not going to make it. You're not going to make it happen. You're missing out on about 90% of your opportunities. The only ones you're going to get are the shoe-ins that were already ready to buy with you and buy for you. So, number one again is get your money right. Number two is product knowledge is not number one. Attitude is. Number three is you've got to follow up. You've got to follow up. And number four, along with following up, you've got to mix up your strategies. You've got to mix up your strategies. Anymore, it's not about emailing. If you're simply cold emailing, you're going to have about 2 to 3% that are going to respond to you at all. You've got to get LinkedIn. You've got to get LinkedIn Navigator. You've got to find other ways to communicate and find people and follow up with them. You can't make it about sales. You can't come across this. Remember I talked about before, 75% at least is not about the selling. It's about the relationship. Start with the relationship. We just did a LinkedIn training with my sales team here a little bit ago with one of my guys, John Clayton, who's done a phenomenal job with that. But all he does, he goes on LinkedIn and says, hey, I'm looking for such and such type of people, increasing my network. I'd like to connect with you. And he starts that connection first, and then he looks at some things about their company and gives them some knowledge about that. You might like this article, thought you might like to see this. He creates that relationship first before he goes into sales mode. That's only 25% of it. What all of you guys do is when you're going on LinkedIn or you're talking to people or you're communicating with people, you go straight into sales mode of whatever it might be. So if you're getting a job, you go straight into selling yourself. That's not what's going to do it. 75%, because understand, the person that's interviewing you, they don't love doing it. They're doing it because it's part of their job process. They want to talk about, they're excited about talking about their kids. They talk about their company all day long. You've got to find ways to communicate with people. Focus on that. Bring them back to the communication piece. But you've got to change things up. What I always say, my philosophy has been for the past 2 decades, when everyone else zigs, you zag. When they zag, you zig. So what I mean by that is, right now, for example, people. How many years ago people say that mail is dead? Direct mail is dead. Okay? Because everyone was doing direct mail. Now hardly anybody's doing direct mail. Right? People used to say that making phone calls and telemarketing, calling into people is dead. You want to send everything out on email. When they zig, you zag. Right now, if it's pinpointed, direct mail is so effective. If it's pinpointed. Number 2 is when I have somebody that I'm talking to, I'm hitting them from every single direction. I'm communicating on LinkedIn. I send them a text message. One of a guys probably watching this right now from Jack from Grant Cardone's office. Every single holiday he sends me a text message. Hey, happy Thanksgiving, buddy. Hope you're having a great time. He's connected. He's not talking about sales this weekend. He'll send me something and actually send me a video. He'll say, hey, buddy, thought I'd send you a quick video. Hope you're having a great weekend. I'm traveling right now, but I'd love to connect with you. So utilizing every single piece of communication that's out there. LinkedIn, don't overuse it, but text messages. Most importantly, anytime you're doing anything in sales, 60% at least, 60% should be phone calls. Most people I don't like phone calls either, right? Because they can say no, it's direct interaction. All these other pieces of communication to someone is typically 3 or 4 levels deep away from them. It's so simple. You can hide behind the curtain and send them a text message, send them an email. You can hide behind the curtain and send them a LinkedIn inbox message. But when you get them on the phone, that's direct communication, right? They can say no. It's sometimes uncomfortable. 60% of your connections have to be phone call. The 40% utilize everything else you've got. Text messages, emails, LinkedIn inbox messages. But connect with people. Connect with people. I even connect with people on the personal level on Facebook. Now make sure that your social media that you've got out there reflects you well. They don't want to see, if they go on your Facebook page, you don't want to show pictures of you partying every single weekend. But, so you got to think about that from a business standpoint. But understand that anybody you're trying to get a job with are looking for you on social media. When I talk to companies, at least 80% of them, 90% of them are looking me up on LinkedIn. You got to think about these things. All right, and that all adds to the credibility of the sales process of what you're doing. Okay, so I'm looking for any questions here. I just see Bree talking about her caffeine intake for the day, so I don't see any messages from you guys. So again, these are the top, in my opinion, the top 5 things if you're selling yourself or you're in the sales position. And by the way, every single one of you should be in some capacity in a sales position. You can argue with me all day long, sales and becoming a master at sales, learning the art form, not the science. I don't focus much time. We talk about the techniques, right? But the techniques are 25% of it. All the things I'm talking about today, the art form is 75% of sales. And those that are masters at the art form will outsell everyone. I can take anyone by teaching them how to have the right mindset, have their money right. When I say, by the way, people have asked me the question about the number 1 thing, about getting your money right. Why is that important? Because if you don't understand money and what you need to create, what you want for your family, creating this legacy for you and your kids and your family, your spouse, creating this legacy, you're not going to pay the price, because sales in many cases is not fun. It's direct combat. You're not going to pick up the phone and have 5 or 7 exposures. You're not going to do those things if you don't have a big enough reason why. And getting your money right, understanding money and why you're going to do it is the first place you want to start. The second thing, again, as I mentioned to you, the second thing is don't focus on product knowledge as much as focusing on your mindset. Get your mind right, your attitude right, your confidence right. Number 3 is fortune the follow-up. Number 4 is mix up your strategies. And then number 5 is the most important one of all, which is ask for the sale. Ask for the sale. Do you realize that 78%, look this stuff up, 78% of people that are supposedly in a sales role never ask for the sale because it's uncomfortable. I will tell you, the reason I've been as successful as I have, everything that I've been in sales and marketing for my early teens, or just my late teens, early 20s, has come down to the fact that I am never uncomfortable asking for the sale. So this is an example. So when I was sitting there, in my early 20s, and I'm trying to talk to somebody about getting involved with me on the financial side of it, I would always start with the application on the table. It's something else, a little trick here, is always have the application that you want to have someone to fill out. Now, almost everything in sales has a contract in some way, whether it's you being sold to or you're at a car dealership. They might be selling you, but you should be selling them what you're going to do. Is have the contract on the table, have the pen sitting there on the table, because that's then a subconscious thing that they realize when you get done, you're going to ask them to sign something, that a transaction has to happen. Okay, so it's on the table. And I would sit there and go to and I would always ask the different things. I'd get to the end. Now, I wasn't always eloquent with it. I wasn't always great at it. I would say things like, well, you're ready to get started. Or, let's get going then, So I would say things that would, prompt them to have to make a decision, right? And then the first person that speaks loses when you ask that question, and they're going to give you a rebuttal or an objection or a question or something else. That's when they squirm a little bit. But you've got to ask for the sale. You've got to ask for the sale. And you got to think on your feet. People throw out, typically, most of the responses are bullshit responses. When I go through the sales process, I'm having them say yes. I'm saying, does this make sense to you? Can you see how there's value here? And they're saying yes, yes, yes. We get to the end. And I said, so are you ready to get started? People would use things like, well, I need to talk to my spouse first. That's a lot of money. And I'll say, great. When do they get off? Because I'm sure you can appreciate, I can explain this better than you can. So let's go ahead and schedule time. We'll get together. Is she available now? Is he available right now? We'll get them on the phone and we'll kind of walk through with them what we're doing here. So that they could no longer use that. I actually had one of my mentors, and we used to joke about different tactics. It was kind of fun. The funniest one ever, his name is Mark Broderson. Hopefully you're watching this, Mark. Mark was in his early 40s, and I was in my early 20s. We're sitting there with this husband and wife, and we're doing this presentation, right? We're talking about the investment and everything else. So Mark's like, well, are you ready to go? And last name was Reed. I remember that specifically. This is the funniest thing ever. So Shannon, I forget what her name was, but he said, well, we need to pray about it. We need to go home and pray about it. And Mark doesn't miss a beat, and he goes, let's bow our heads, and goes like this. Now, I'm trying to bow my head low enough so that they can't see, because I'm trying not to laugh, right? But Mark did not miss a beat. He's like, let's bow our heads. And then he said a short prayer. He's like, God, please help us know if this is the right move for us and for the Reedy family. Help us know if this is what we need to be doing, all this stuff. And then he goes, well, what do you guys think? He goes, he said yes to me. What do you say to you? Now, obviously, I'm not saying that's kind of sounds like a cheesy tactic, but it was hilarious. And so Mark always made it fun. And the Reedies didn't know what to say. They're like, yeah, it feels good. Let's do this. So, and they became a serious producer for our business. So you've got to make it fun, but you've got to think outside the box. You've got to zig when they zag and zag when they zig. David with Business Nitrous, our marketing team, he used to do a cool thing when he was talking to the right decision maker within the company. He would send a FedEx, so it's something big, right? A FedEx package directly to the guy he was talking to, the CFO, CEO of the company. He went out and bought a bunch of shoes, a bunch of dress shoes, cheap dress shoes, and he would send one shoe to each of these potential clients, FedEx the box to them, and the card said, now I've got one foot in the door, I'd like to have a conversation to see how I can get the other foot in the door. Something that just stands out, with people, right? You've got to figure out ways to catch attention from people, to be unique, to be different. And that's the biggest differentiator within sales. Mixing up your strategies was number 4, and number 5 again is ask for the sale. You can't be uncomfortable to ask for the sale. Simple things. And again, let's take this reversal. Once you get this stuff down, you understand that everything is sales. Somebody's selling you all the time. Somebody's always selling you, whether it be the television, whether it be CNN, whether it be Fox News, MSNBC, whether it be anything you're watching, anything you're saying. Your spouse is selling you on something. Your kids, where you're going to go out to eat, are selling you on something or what they want to buy. When you go to buy a car, that's all sales. There's an art form to it. The good people, I love going someplace and the person's actually pretty good. But there's certain ways you'll start learning and get this down. My whole team, Caleb, Rachel, Bree, Sierra, Riley, I mean, these guys have all went through sales training over the past several months. And they get on, they role play together, look at opportunities, they role play to figure out how they can better do these things. But it's amazing. So, for example, you learn different things. Like you go to a restaurant and they can't get you in. One of my favorite lines is, well, let me ask you a question. Are they going to have a problem with me giving you a bribe so we can get a seat? Or we can get a seat faster? And 9 out of 10 times, the company, whoever that won't allow them to, sometimes I've got to give them 20 or 50 bucks, but I almost always get in and get a seat. It's very rare I have to wait. Or simple things when I go in to a car dealership, right? Going to a car dealership, the last thing you want to do is when they use a tactic like, hey, what do you want your payments to be? Don't ever give them that number. Because all they're going to do is spread the term of your payments out from 5 years to 7 years or 3 years to 5 years. Don't ever go in initially and say you're going to trade something off. Because they're going, I love people that go to a car dealership and they say, oh my God, they gave me $4,800 for this piece of shit car and it's only worth like $2,000. No, they didn't give you $4,800. They just jacked the price up on the other side of the car that you're buying. You got to learn this stuff, guys. I mean, when I go in, even if I'm trading something off, no, I don't want to trade anything off, and I just want to see what the dollar price is. I already looked online. I know what I can get this product for or this car for. I've already figured this thing out. And by the way, if I decide to pull the trigger, you've got exactly 1 hour for me to be in and out with the documentation, or I'm out of here. I set the stage. Typically, I'll call ahead of time. And I'll say, here's my social, here's my information. Once you run everything, have everything ready to go. Here's the car I'm looking at online. I'm willing to pay this for it. Do the numbers, and I'll be there in about 2 hours. And by the way, you've got an hour to figure this out when I come in. I set the stage. I control the tone of the conversation, right? When I sit down, I start negotiating. I don't know why I'm telling you this stuff. It's just, you have to understand everything is sales. I start negotiating with them. I say, no, I'm not trading anything off. They go through the numbers, and whatever number they give me, I push them really hard. So if the numbers, let's say, my Escalade, $96,000, I offer them $92,000. I looked online. I know it's worth about $93,000. I start pushing on them, and they finally come up with a number. I'm like, okay, well, let's go ahead and now look at the trade. You got the number down to this. What are you willing to give me for that car? What's the trade and value for that car? Now they've got nowhere to go on this end, because now this end's locked down, right? They got the number that they're willing to give you that new car for. Now they come in and tell you the actual number they're going to give you for your used car. These are all things, guys, you got to learn. This is an art form of selling. So it's not just about you having to be in sales. You have to understand everything is in sales and how you present yourself as selling. And everything around you either on the receiving end of being sold to, or you're going to be the one selling. Grant Cardone has a great book called Sell or Be Sold. And that's the reality. Either you're selling or you're being sold something. And the more masterful you become at this in every area of your life, of the art of selling, the more successful you're going to be in every area of your life. Looking at any questions? Yes, you're right. Marketing yourself in general. Not sure who that is. What is your best icebreakers when you're cold calling or building relationships, from Katie Danger? Katie, when I'm calling into a company, again, I keep everything at a high level. Don't talk about selling. Don't talk about what you're actually offering. So let's say if I were you, Katie, I just know that you're in the nutritional business. You're calling, and again, I don't know who exactly you're calling, but I'm just throwing this out of my ass here. If I was calling a company, and by the way, I love doing this stuff. You know what I would love to do? Let's figure out a call where you guys can bring questions into me of what you guys are doing, and you can say, hey, how would you sell this? How would you open the door up? Here's what I'm wanting to do, and if I know what you're doing, I can tell you exactly how to do it. I mean, I can say to you right now, Katie, and you said, hey, I've got this list of 20 people, and here's what I want to sell to them. Here's the product. Here's the information. And I can pick up the phone within 5 minutes and call and sell your product without knowing anything, because I've done this enough. So if you're calling somebody, for example, I would say, hi, this is Katie Danger with Redhead Nutrition. You might have heard of me, but I'm simply calling you to make an introduction of who we are out in the marketplace, why our supplements are unique, why they're different. And if nothing else, I'd like to get a chance to share with you some information and either earn some of your business now or down the road. So when can we spend 15, 20 minutes to have a conversation with some information via email as well that you can look over? When can we schedule 15 to 20 minutes? I can dig in a little bit deeper of what we're doing and why we're unique, why we're different. You've got to find ways to make it a soft approach. You're not trying to sell anything. You're just trying to keep it at a high level of you're simply, calling to introduce yourself, of what you do out there. And again, and you've got to look at their objections. Their objections immediately are going to be, why would I buy from you versus going to Amazon? So you've got to differentiate yourself. You can't hit on what they always say: the best offense or the best defense is a good offense. So if you already know, they're going to say, "Why would I not buy it on Amazon?" Let me share with you, when there's some contacting you, to share with you who we are in the marketplace, why our supplements are unique, why they're different, and quite frankly, why you would buy from us versus buying from Amazon or buying from bodybuilder.com. Here's what makes us unique and what makes us different. The second thing you want to do is you want to name drop. You want to name drop if you have the ability to, so that some of this you got to be careful with. We've got confidentiality all the time, agreements with our clients, but you can name drop at a lot higher level without getting yourself in too much trouble. You just can't put it in writing. But so if I'm calling a certain group, let's say it's a gym as an example, I'd like to simply share with you what we're doing with Gold's Gym and how we can potentially do some things for you guys as well. So you say those things, you name drop a couple of companies within their industry, because that will get them to say in their mind, well, first of all, why are they using you and I'm not? So with what I do when we sell energy, for example, if we call into a hospital group, we'll say, listen, I'd like to share with you what we're doing in the marketplace, and what the Fortune 50, Fortune 100 companies are working with us, and I'd like to share with you how we've saved Loma Linda and Luther Medical Center over $6.5 million a year on their energy expense. So when can we schedule 15 minutes to do a meet and greet with our executive team, find out some more about you, find out more about us, see if there's some synergy now or down the road to earn some of your business. You've got to keep things at a very high level to get in the door and break the ice. Also, the most important thing you need to break the ice, if you do a little bit of research. If you're going to call someone, look on LinkedIn. Now, don't get lost in research. I always tell my team, you should not be spending more than 10 minutes researching anybody you're going to call. Because what people do is they find excuses for doing the sales process. They find excuses for not making the phone calls. So if I know to make this happen, I'll give you an example, and you can be offended if you want to. There's a guy actually at Lifetime Fitness, and would come up to me, Kevin. Kevin would come to me Lifetime. I love you, Kevin, by the way. But Kevin would come to me Lifetime Fitness, and Kevin would say, Kori, could you help me a little bit? How would you sell more? What would you do? How would you do this? And I would say, I don't even know your business, but I know one thing. I wouldn't be talking to me. I would be on the phones, banging the phones outside of working hours, banging the phones and saying, listen, I see it's your birthday. We're doing a special promotion right now where we give you one free personal trainer visit because it's your birthday. When should we schedule that? Simple as that. And then when anyone that comes to the gym, get the entire list of people and actually walk up and say, hey, listen, I don't know if you know who I am. My name is Kevin, so-and-so. I'm with the gym here. And I would just like to offer you one free time to walk you through what we do. You've got to find ways to communicate with people. People are so scared to pick up the phone. They're so scared of the interaction. So people, the people that read all of my memes and all of my things that I post and all the personal development shit and all this stuff, the people are addicted to that, right? Which is fine. But they don't do anything. The world is full of knowledgeable people that don't do anything and they're broke. It's amazing how many people come to me, for example, and they're supposedly these amazing salespeople or amazing marketers or amazing brand people, and they're broke. Because they haven't learned, they know that the knowledge is one thing. The actual execution is what it takes to succeed. It's wisdom. Wisdom is applying the knowledge. Knowledge is one thing. And you've got to get out there and do it. And you've got to chunk your time and say, listen, for example, Katie, your business. If you said, all I'm going to do for 5 hours every single week, probably not Mondays, probably Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are the best days to make phone calls and emails. I'm not saying don't do it outside of those times. I'm saying that people are more busy on Mondays and Fridays. Fridays are wanting to get out of there, and Mondays they're getting to work and hate their job. But you've got to make a phone call typically Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, emailing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, and connect with those people, but actually say, I'm going to schedule every single week, do my research in the weekends, and every single week on Tuesday, 5 hours out of my time, I'm doing nothing else but banging the phones. Have their numbers already, have a little bit of knowledge about them, so you have a reference that you can say, hey, I noticed you guys are doing this, notice you're looking at this, you have some reference, not just a cold contact, and your only goal, initial focus, is not to sell them supplements, is to get the appointment. 5 hours of productive activity every single week. That's the juice that does your business. I see so many business owners say to me, hey, my business is doing $35 million a year. I've just plateaued out. And I say, how many people are you selling? Are you on the phone selling your company 5 hours a week and you build that down to everybody else? No, we've got a marketing team. Okay, that's fine. But have you figured out this to exact science? Who's going to sell this better than you are as the CEO, as the owner? You figure out the sale and how to sell it and how to do it within my company. I don't tell my people how to go out and sell. I sell myself first, which I've done. then I don't tell them to bang the phones, but until I'm banging the phones. Because then I can go to them and say, hey, listen, not in theory, here's how you sell it. Let me go ahead and record 5 of my phone calls. You guys plug in and listen to me do 5 or 6 phone calls, and I'll show you how this is done. Okay, so how many of you guys think it'd be kind of cool if I did that for you guys? Is we'll schedule one of these where it'll be Kori, teaching Kori selling live. And you guys, I'll show you how I sell and how I communicate and what I do. You tell me what your company is ahead of time. So we'll set up a little thing and you tell Bree what your company is, what you're trying to sell, what you're doing, and I'll do it live with you guys. I'll even make some phone calls if you guys want me to, and I'll show you guys how to sell. Okay, appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to you guys next Monday. Don't miss tomorrow. Again, send a text message right now. The number's 313131. Send one text to Kori, Kori. Send another text to that same number and put the body, THE body, and you'll be plugged into 2 of my groups, our groups. And tomorrow, Bree will be going live. I'll be on there talking about getting your ass to the gym and how you find the time and the energy to push yourself to get the body you want, the energy level that you want to succeed. And so to join that, just go ahead and send it to the body, and then you'll get a reply back to join that group. That's a private. There's like 200 some people in that group. It's private. You can fill the questions out. It just asks you how committed are you. Why do you want to join this group? And you can put it down. And once you get in the group, you'll get a document in that group that you can print, and it'll give you kind of the stages of what I do, the top 12 things that I've learned over the past 2.5 decades to get my body in peak performance. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you. We'll talk to you guys next week. Bye-bye.